So the kind of second theme that we wanted to delve into, and obviously all of these things are to an extent connected, it is the climate crisis. And obviously, like, it seems like there aren't many weeks that go by without some kind of catastrophic, apocalyptic update on the weather and the state of global warming coming across the airwaves. And so really, I guess I'd be interested to ask your party's perspective on the climate crisis, and with this Welsh emphasis in making the most of Wales's natural resource potential in terms of addressing that. So maybe, Tom, I'll come back to you first. And,
thank you very much. Climate change is real. I think that's the first thing I want to say, and it is very evident. And we've seen warnings this week, and as you rightly said, pretty much any week you can point to examples of climate change having an impact on the way that we live our lives and the warning signs about the way we need to live our lives in the future. Now, the UK has cut carbon emissions quicker than any other G7 nation. That's really clear. We've got a good story to tell. As I said earlier, investing in things like offshore wind, we've got the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and soon to be sixth, seventh, and eighth as well, largest offshore wind farms anywhere in the world. Here in the United Kingdom, we're moving in that direction. But it's how do we leverage the benefits, I think was the question, of that green industrial future. Now, we talked earlier about Port Talbot. Now, I'm really optimistic, actually, despite everything we've seen over the last number of weeks, about the future of Port Talbot as a town, because it is going to be in the future a town that is based on clean green energy, and Swansea as an innovation hub that kind of feeds that. So many of you will have seen plans for the new Freeport that is going to be based in Port Talbot and in Milford Haven. And now that is a Freeport, an economic driver that is built fundamentally on building clean green energy for the future. That could be responsible for 16,000 jobs. We talked about the 2,800 that are being lost in Port Talbot today. In the long term, we're hoping to see 16,000 jobs come as a result of this Freeport. So you're right to say energy and clean green energy is linked to the economy in so many ways. And we are unequivocally as well, want to add, pro-nuclear in our party as well. And that was what differentiates us, I think, from other parties as well. And there's a great proposal for a new nuclear site on Anglesey as well. So I think some people can see a transition towards green energy, a transition towards a kind of post-climate change, if you like, world as some kind of threat. And I know my party really, really sees that as an opportunity. And there's an opportunity that's happening right here on our doorstep in South West Wales.
Thank you. Andrew, I'll come to you next, if that's okay.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Tom just said, and I'm surprised by that, but it's true, we have enormous potential across Wales in our green sector. There are problems, however, and there are challenges and there are risks. Port Talbot, which Tom mentioned, and he referred to the transition, but what we need is a just transition. We need to ensure that there is the investment there to ensure that jobs aren't lost in the speed and scale at which they are being lost. We need to ensure that when we do see developments, that they are benefiting the communities that they are situated in. Because Neath Talbot, for example, we have seen a huge number of renewable energy developments, and the majority of which do not benefit the communities that they are sited in. They do have, community benefit clauses, but that is a fraction of the amount that the companies are actually making from our communities. And we've seen our communities and Wales used for its resources in the past. And that's why Plaid Cymru wants to see a different approach taken in the future. That is why we want to see greater community ownership, or at least, part, I think it was 20-30% community stake in any new renewable development. And that's why one of the things that we have been talking about for quite a while, and we will continue to do so, is the devolution of the Crown Estate. So that when it comes to the developments that are taking place, and Tom mentioned the offshore wind developments, then we can state that we want to see community benefit, community ownership. So that will reinvest in our communities, grow our economy, and take the sceptical amongst us with us.
Thank you. Carolyn.
The environment is a massive issue, and I think younger people like we have with us today, some of you, feel that more than what probably my generation does. When I go out and about and I'm talking to people in my constituency, majority don't talk about the environment. They talk about how much money it's costing them to do the shopping, and they talked about the fact that they can't afford to drive their car to the hospital for appointments. So it is a very important issue, but we have to be realistic and say it's not the most important issue for a lot of people, not in this area, not in Swansea. Whatever we do around the environment, it cannot be at the cost of jobs. We cannot lose jobs to improve the environment. I totally get that we need to do a lot more, but we cannot have another British Steel situation with Tata last week where we've lost all that jobs for the wrong decision. What the Labour Party are talking about doing, first of all, is the Warm Homes Insulation Plan. Now, we would have liked to have done a lot more if we could have had them and borrowed the money to do it. But the massive issue is there's not enough insulation, not enough homes are insulated, so we'd see a lot of homes losing energy when we could be actually cutting down on our bills because we're better insulated. We're not going to give any new licences to oil and gas. That's a big issue. Personally, I would want the moratorium on fracking to stay in place. It's an untested technology, and where we have seen it, we've seen that it's not very successful. That is a plan that a lot of people would like to see pushing through. We need to keep the moratorium on fracking. We have a plan to make sure that by 2030, we will have a clear power strategy. So the clean power strategy would make sure that whatever power we are producing is clean power. The Great British Energy Company I talked about earlier on would reduce every household bill by £1,400 every year. It would be a publicly owned company, and it would money that we'd all save, along with the insulation, we'd save on our every year on our energy costs. And for those people who are really struggling, and very many people come to me and they've had their electricity and the gas cut off, or they're making decisions between whether they can buy the kids' shoes or put the heating on. It's really important that we look at what we need to do for the people in our communities.